We're in Central with you, then you hear Ojwang has died in Central. Then you start imagining you lying there.
You're with Dr. in Central?
Yes, in Central Police. We were arrested with him together and we're in Central. So we saw ourselves entering Central and being booked into Central. Fortunately, we left alive. Ojwang lives dead.
What we are supposed to be doing is not going to the streets and saying Ruto must go. We are supposed to compel our members of parliament to impeach the president.
As far as I'm concerned,
Yes.
in Kenya and why Ojwang has died, we have a president who cannot perform. And because he can't perform, he's scared by people who question his performance. And because these people are too intelligent, he cannot argue with them. He can only kill them. So non-performance is a big risk for a head of state.
We have seen that Lagat was, we can call intransigent. He didn't want to leave that position. The constitution is very clear that if your integrity is highly doubted, it is upon you to recuse yourself from the position you are in, and you allow the investigative process to take place.
Thank you so much and welcome to the Power Table tonight. Well, my name is Eugene Kwach and this conversation begins. Well, in the Power Table, we get to discuss issues that affect you. And tonight, Kenya is at a pivotal moment. The death of blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody, caught on CCTV with glaring inconsistencies, has stirred national outrage, reignited protest and exposed once again the fragile national trust between citizens and those meant to protect them. Well, just a year ago, more than 60 Kenyans were killed during the anti-tax protest, with many more abducted, tortured, and silenced. In both cases, justice remains elusive. At the same time, the government is pushing forward with the 2025-2026 budget promising no new taxes, a focus on growth, and a nod to equity. But behind the spreadsheets, are citizens still asking, who is this budget really for? Where is the justice and who is listening to us? Well, this conversation begins, but of course we always have guests. And tonight, I have Professor Fred Ogola, who is joining us for this conversation, who is an economist and an activist. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us on this conversation. And of course, we also have Dr. Mugashia, who is joining us for this conversation. Thank you so much, Daktari, for joining us for this conversation. And of course, Daktari is a governance expert, and with a number of years spanning in governance. And permit me that we begin this conversation perhaps with a case that has actually gripped the nation and reignited the deep concerns over justice and policing in Kenya. The death of Albert Ojwang in the custody of the police. And permit me to begin with you. Amongst other current affairs, what do you make?
Yeah, first of all, this is something which is very unfortunate. And I want to continue to pour my condolences to the family. And I want to tell the family, I want to tell all Kenyans that this was completely unfortunate. It was 99% avoidable. It was needless. There were so many things that could be done apart from taking his life.
Okay.
And I want to say that it's in clear violation of human rights. His rights were denied in many ways. And I think that what Ojwang's death sends out clearly is that Kenyans should not even entertain even any single excuse, explanation, justification, because it was completely wrong.
Okay.
And for that matter, if we accept this,
Yes.
we are going to deteriorate.
Okay.
And I don't really like the response of the state. The state responded dismally, first of all, by lying. And what they don't know is that Kenya is so connected. The phone penetration in Kenya is 138%, meaning that we have 77.6 million phones. with the 77.6 million phones, larger than the 56 million Kenyans, there's a phone everywhere.
Okay.
Because wherever there's a Kenyan, there's a phone.
Yes.
And actually, even here,
Okay.
each of us have 2 phones each. So the information came in, falsified that statement within no time.
Yes.
Then again, they didn't stop there. They again went to the Senate. And Almin lied again.
Yes.
CCTV again falsified them.
Okay.
During the postmortem, I was an eyewitness there. Lies began in the morning.
Yes.
Oh, we can't do postmortem because we are related.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays AI can show you all these things. Those who are related.
Yes.
Secondly, someone says that there is no government pathologist. They were telling us that the department is understaffed. With a quick research,
Yes.
we found that that department has very many pathologists. So I'm trying to say that the response of the state began with the lies.
Okay.
And allow me just to continue so that you get the point.
Yes.
It went on even to the state to start looking at this thing like Ojwang's family needs help rather than needing justice. When Sakaja came to the scene and started promising that, oh, I'm going to employ the wife. No. Compensation comes after justice. And in fact, by understanding the magnitude of injustice is when you can even calculate compensation. Who told him that the wife wants a job now? The wife needs justice for the husband and then bury the wife, the husband. He's saying, I'm going to build a house for Ojwang's father. That is not what they're looking for. They're looking for justice first. And I know what they're doing. They're trying to distract the family to stop focusing on justice for the son and start looking for the benefits they can get out of their son. And they have refused to understand. They have refused to accept this. The other thing which I've seen also, the state has come with 50 narratives, different narratives about what killed Ojwang. And that is not because they are fools. They are strategic so that they can distract the prosecution, they can distract the investigators, because if investigators take one theory, then they miss on actually what is true. And I can tell the state, allow justice and peace to prevail. This is the time we want truth, justice for the family. The rest you're promising come later. For all those who are promising Ojwang politicians, if we are serious, go to the family lawyer and deposit your promises with them so that they're legally binding. Stop shouting about them in the media.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Mugashia, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Asante sana.
Yep.
Always good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. On the current state of affairs, permit me, away even from Albert Ojwang, it's a conversation that we're going to into. What do you make of the current state of affairs?
I look at a country where the citizens are a very frustrated lot. And they are frustrated because of misgovernance. The end result of misgovernance is inability to make ends meet. That the livelihoods of the citizens have been, they have been thoroughly damaged, by the misgovernance. Now, I also look at citizens who are very, very disillusioned by the leadership. We have seen the Ruto must go narrative and the Ruto must go reaction and action. It has permeated through the whole country. But what the president has done, he knows the people do not want to see him. They have said, we have fired the president. We don't want to see him. And he is not leading us well. But he's forcing himself on the people. And you have followed that everywhere the president has gone, there has been shouts of Ruto must go. And people have said, you are not leading us to where we want to go. You are not leading us properly. Now, how the president has responded is by attempting to bribe the people. You have seen things called empowerment programs, where state resources are being given to MPs and civil servants like PSs and CSs. And they go down to the ground and they share that money among the people. That simple action, it should even have made the parliament that is the National Assembly and the Senate, to impeach the president. Because, go back to the Constitution, budget allocation. Who does budget allocation?
Okay.
It is the National Assembly. And the president is supposed to implement what has been allocated by Parliament. So all this money that is being called empowerment, where is it coming from? It is state resources which are just being wasted.
Okay.
When that money goes to individuals, the rest of the people have nothing to gain from it. That money could have been used to do things like roads, that is infrastructure projects, education, health, and many more.
Okay.
But now what it does is create more poverty in the name of saying that you are empowering the people. And I would like to tell the president, empowerment is not a single instant activity. It is a process. And proper empowerment is supposed to end up with transformative change in the individual.
Okay.
So like when you go through a school process, you are empowered.
Okay.
When you go through a structured training, even for 1 week, you are empowered.
Yes.
But you cannot be empowered by being given a washing machine and you don't even know how to use it. And you don't even know whether there is a market for it.
Okay.
So for me, the current state of affairs is that we have a very dissatisfied population,
Citizens,
and rightly so. We also have a disillusioned population.
Okay.
And we have a people who are fed up with their top leader.
Okay.
That is the president.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quite interesting. Let me ask you, what do you make of Albert Ojwang's death in police custody?
Okay. First of all, let me give my condolences to the family of the late Ojwang and tell them that we as Kenyans stand with them and we are happy that they have asked for justice and they are demanding justice for their son. That young man is younger than my youngest. So that is a son to me. And he's a brother because he's a citizen like me. I would ask the family to stay the course of demanding justice. And I appeal to all Kenyans, wherever they are, or wherever you are, let us stand with this family. Let us escort the body when it comes to that time. Let us go to Homa Bay and make a statement as citizens that we will never want to see this happening again in our country.
Okay.
And we must make sure that the culprits are prosecuted.
Okay.
Now, this is a very, very atrocious issue because Albert Ojwang had committed what you may call a misdemeanor that he had published, according to the claims, that he had published false information. So I agree with Prof here. He need not have gone through what he did. He should simply have been told, given a summon, and asked to report to the DCI. Wherever they wanted him to report, he would report. That is what they would have done, because this is not a highly criminal offense. It is an offense, yes. Secondly, nobody in this country, nobody is supposed to be tortured, that let alone being killed. Nobody is supposed to be tortured. So when you look at what the police did, it is the height of impunity. And this impunity must come to an end. But I want to say something. I want to be religious a bit.
Okay.
And I will say Albert Ojwang's death is an answer, it has come as an answer to the prayers that Kenyans have been doing.
How?
We have all been asking, God, help us to understand who is persecuting and killing us. Today, we all know.
Okay.
It is unfortunate that Albert went that way.
Okay.
But then if you look at it, these people have always grabbed people, killed them in different circumstances, and we find that the citizens are not able to follow. But in this particular one, they have gone specifically step by step and we are able to follow as citizens and see what happened.
Okay.
And I now come to agree with the Greek saying
Yes.
that when the gods want to destroy a man, they first confuse him and make him mad.
Okay.
These people were thoroughly confused. And they did everything, leaving their footprint everywhere. And here we are. Finally,
Okay.
there is something that is coming up
Okay.
in these investigations. The presence of some people in police stations who are being called civilians. We need to investigate thoroughly. There has been a story for a long time
Okay.
about people who reside in police stations, and they are the people who are contracted
Okay.
by the police
Interesting.
to kill people, to maim people. This is time to investigate this.
So you're saying the death of, or rather the killing of Ojwang is a blessing in this case?
I don't want to say that.
Okay, interesting.
I don't want to put it that way.
Okay.
But I want to say
Yes.
it is a revelation.
Of who really is killing Kenyans.
Yes.
Well, let's go to you, Professor, as I dig deep into this issue, because it's an issue that has actually, it's something so many Kenyans are talking about. And we have institutions like IPOA and, of course, also internal affairs who have struggled a lot to deliver justice. And we're even asking that, because we've had reforms since 2010, why is it difficult for IPOA to deliver justice in such a case?
Quite, all the letters in the word I power are okay from the word I. Power is okay, but the word is I. Just like in IBC, the biggest missing word is I. Tell me any single independent institutions that we have in Kenya. Remember the Constitution of Kenya, which was done. The Constitution of Kenya has 3 parts that were very critical. The first part was content that came from the people. You understand? Then there is one part which came from elite compromises, whereby elitists compromised certain clauses because they gave clauses that will preserve impunity. And of course, the last part was considering the consequences of any way you go. For example, you find there's a chapter in the Constitution that says that until you exhaust all your legal options, you are still innocent. So you see there's somebody, member of parliament, who had been actually implicated with crime, serious crime. So you see, for example, we have a governor in Nairobi who do not have a degree and lied about it, and there's nothing happening because he's still exploring his legal options. So as far as I'm concerned, the independence of institutions is the biggest problem. That's why I saw Kenyans who are being entertained. Government is very interesting. They put up a whole day when senators and MPs were entertaining Kenyans with speeches, shedding what I call crocodile tears. They were telling people how we have a broken government, we have a government that is killing people, yet in their seat there's a button that if they press, the president goes home. These people are shedding crocodile tears. If they believe Ruto is broken, because my brother Joe said...
The leaders are shedding
crocodile tears, yes.
What should the leaders do to help in such
You see, you heard what Joe said?
Yes.
That the whole country is saying 1 term. And now the whole country is saying half term, because they cannot wait for the next half. If you go play football with another team and you have been given 10-0, do you want to have a second half? These people have eaten a 10 and given Kenyan 0. You understand? So we don't even want the second half of the term. So if everyone in Kenya is saying half term, yet MPs and senators are the people representative, how are they representing the views of Kenyans?
Let me cut you short.
So,
is there a constitutional provision for a half term?
No.
Or quarter term?
Why Parliament is there is that Parliament should be able to oversight the president. The only person with powers to impeach the president is is Parliament currently. That's why in our petition with Joe, we are seeking a bill to give citizens direct power to impeach the president. Because these guys have refused to do that. So I'm trying to say crocodile tears simply means you are shedding tears, crying over Ojwang, yet these people have the power to impeach the president. Do you know if they can do it in 1 week, the president can be back in Sugoi? But they don't want. Because of what? When that time comes, the president gives them money and they take. You get me? Secondly, I heard them now saying, oh, we'll give Ojwang some money, we'll donate money. Do you know why do you want to turn Kenyans into beggars? All MPs and senators are put up a fund. Even senators are looking for a fund now to oversight governance, isn't it? MPs have got all sorts of funds.
Okay.
Is there any fund that if a Kenyan suffers, for example, the postmortem for Ojwang is being paid by his family?
Okay.
Why? How comes you take a Kenyan, you kill him, then again you don't go donate for him money to pay for postmortem to know why he has died? There's no fund anywhere that if there's an investigation on a body of your family,
Okay.
that is paid. So I'm trying to say it's purely crocodile tears. And I want to explain to you, do you know where the issue of independent institutions came from? When they did the constitution, they came with 3 arms of government.
Okay.
The executive,
Yes.
legislature, and judiciary.
Okay.
And the drafter of the constitution was still not satisfied that those institutions can check on the excesses of the executive.
Okay.
So they created independent institutions to try to do what? To do what parliament should do. But now look, even that 4th arm has failed.
Okay.
That's where IPOA is. That's where the issue of ombudsman comes in, isn't it? So the word I is the biggest problem in Kenya.
Okay.
IPOA has no financial independence. They are given money by the state.
Okay.
Nowadays, the president has taken treasury
Yes.
to be sitting in State House.
Okay.
So if you want any money, you must talk to the president. Secondly, physical security. Who guards IPOA? Go to the offices. They are in the First Ngong Avenue,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
When you go there, they are guarded by the Kenya police. Now they are investigating the Kenya police. As they are investigating the Kenya police is giving them security. What are you expecting? What are you expecting? I was with them. These people are powerless. They get instructions on how to investigate.
The IPOA is powerless.
I is the problem.
Okay.
In Africa,
There's no independence.
In Africa, there's a problem.
Okay.
Whenever you see the word independent, that's where there's no independence. When you hear the word democratic, like we have Democratic Republic of Congo, go there and get democracy. There's no democracy there. So all these words were being used to manipulate the citizens. Even EACC, institutions like EACC, they were put there so that when Joe has stolen money, I'm not saying Joe, but anyone, you are taken to sit in a couch, given flowers, taking tea, while being asked how you stole 20 billion. But when a Kenyan steals 1,000, he's beaten and whipped and kicked and thrown in a cell and mistreated without food. So if anybody will ever give me a chance, isn't it? These people are wasting money.
Okay.
Look at what, let me just go further.
Yes.
You look, ESCC has given a report on how they have recovered 26 billion shillings from crime, isn't it? Then you go to the budget they have spent to recover that money. Negative return on investment. The time they have spent, the resources spent is almost equivalent to the money they have recovered. So all these are corruption. According to me, before we have the right person in State House, no citizens have a right.
Okay.
And Kenyans should focus on getting the right person, because you cannot be independent when you have an imposter in charge of state machinery.
Okay.
And I just want to go and maybe share a little bit what Joe was talking about on the issue of governance. We have a president that looks at governance as public relations. That's why you heard Bishop Muhera saying advertising. They think that the state is about PR. That's why he's on top of the car saying, nimetenga hii, nitafanya hii. He thinks it's PR. After doing the PR, he goes back home and does nothing. Secondly, we have a president that thinks that politics is more important than the constitution. In fact, you know, most of the president's staff are my friends. I know them, isn't it? They sometimes tell me, the president says that, usilete katiba hapa. Is there anything you want to do without katiba? Ati katiba, wacha hiyo katiba kando kwanza, wewe fanya hii kazi. Angalia unaweza kupanga hiyo mambo. How do you say that as a head of state to your staff? So whatever even Kanja has done, if he's the one who has killed Ojwang, or whatever IG has done that is stepping aside, he is getting the example from his boss. His exemplary leadership. Do you think that the people who have been called have been killed by the president at the state, isn't it? Do you think maybe Kanja or Langata has done their first or second one, isn't it? How many heads are crying on the president's head? So many. Okay. So if the top has killed, what problem do you have if you kill below the top? And that's why some of us have said, even under my dead body, you'll drag me with my coffin to Ruto's government, even if they give me which position. Because we know very well that if you go there, there's nothing you're going to do. Team of experts from ODM, they came. You saw Mbadi's budget. It shows very well that there's no expertise in that budget. Yeah, like now, I'm questioning now, 56 billion shillings for treasury on development. What is treasury developing? That out of the budget, there's 56 billion shillings to treasury to budget. So as far as I'm concerned, in Kenya and why Ojwang has died, we have a president who cannot perform. And because he can't perform, he's scared by people who question his performance. And because these people are too intelligent, he cannot argue with them. He can only kill them. So non-performance is a big risk for a head of state. And I want to urge Kenyans, never ever elect anybody, Pasabu, he has a sweet mouth. If they can't deliver, they'll turn back to kill you. That's why the dogs that bark, but cannot bite the enemy, turn back and bite the owner of the dog. And because that is what I'm saying to be fundamentally important here, the president has put up a budget now to deal with dissent. If you look at the budget 2025-2026, there's 100 million shillings for buying spy software to spy over you and finish you. Let me just finish this one, it's important. And why these 100 million shillings? If you are a young person with a Twitter follower or social media following above 70,000, you are in state security radar, you'll be spied. Everything you post, they're going to check. And they're going to come to you. So I'm ending by saying the budget 2027, just like we were told last year, we have budgeted corruption. Now we have budgeted abduction. Ojwang was killed by state budget because a constable cannot order someone to travel 450 kilometers to Homa Bay, another 450 kilometers back to Nairobi. That is 900 kilometers with a vehicle which is consuming fuel and other consumables. There's a budget for killing Kenyans. And that budget is put in security budget. And that's why John Mbadi increased the budget on security by 17%. Kenya is not at war, but Kenya is at war by itself, whereby the state has declared war on the citizens. So they have to increase budget on security to execute this war.
There's a budget on killing Kenyans.
Yes, of course, but do you think, let me ask you, do you think the state has spent nothing to kill Ojwang? Tell me if it's possible that they spend 0 shillings. Even now, you see now IPOA is investing them. They are being given lawyers, isn't it? The state attorney general is going to respond on the case, isn't it? There's a budget in attorney general's office so that if the government kills somebody and they are taken to court, there's money to defend them. At the same time, to go pick somebody, isn't it? With so many of those securities, even to delete the CCTV. How did they carry Ojwang to Bagathi? It went with air, isn't it? They carried him to Bagathi Hospital. They took him again to City Mortuary Hospital with air. It's only after they killed him, then the family took over the transport. But I'm telling you, this is an undeniable fact that there's a budget on how to kill people, and we know very well that the budget on security is not fully disclosed. So there's a percentage, you don't disclose. This does not go through auditors or auditor generals, let's say, auditing. So it's opaque budget, which is being used to do whatever they want. And I can say that's where Kenya's death is.
Wow. Interesting. Well, I don't even know what to say. If there's a budget for killing Kenyans. But let's talk about
before you go there, before you go out of this, there's something that you ask. There's something that you asked that we need to make it, to elaborate it to citizens. You ask whether there is a constitutional clause for citizens to remove the president.
Yes.
And we say, right now, we don't have a direct clause. And Professor said that is why we are pushing a bill to amend the constitution for citizens' recall of the president. But that does not remove the citizens from demanding removal of the president. Because when you go to Article 145, it gives the procedure for removing the president by impeachment. Then it says the president shall be impeached by the National Assembly and the Senate. The National Assembly institutes and recommends to the Senate. The Senate then gets a hearing and then approves, and the person goes. And that is what happened with the deputy president, who was Gachagua. That is what happened. Now, in this case, Parliament is, which is the two houses, they are captured. But if you go to, when you go to chapter 1 of the Constitution, Article 1, it says sovereign power belongs to the people. Then Article 2, it says they can exercise this power directly or indirectly through their elected leaders. So, Kenyans, what we are supposed to be doing is not going to the streets and saying Ruto must go. We are supposed to compel our members of parliament to impeach the president. And people ask me how. But all of us, every constituency should write. First of all, we should give a petition to each of our members of parliament and tell them to take it to the National Assembly. That
is how you remove the president.
We remove the president. Right now, that is what we can do. Because we will be implementing Article 2 of the Constitution through our elected leaders. That is what we should do.
So how are we sure the members of parliament that we have will actually take our opinions of removing the president to the National Assembly?
That one is, it is for us, the citizens,
yes,
to enforce.
Okay.
Because we are the ones who hold the sovereign power.
Okay.
So, you remember during the Gen Z, the budget, that's 2024 budget. You remember that members of parliament were told by citizens not to appear in public if they are going to pass the budget.
Okay.
Never mind they went and passed the budget. But the citizens' dissent was so heavy, the president himself could not approve the budget. So, citizens, what we need to know is that we are the ones who give instructions to our leaders. We can do that.
Okay.
We give them, if they don't take it to parliament,
yes,
if they don't take it to the National Assembly,
yes,
let them not come to us. They are not serving us.
Okay.
We will not listen to them.
Okay.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot of questions around actually how that will even happen, because maybe there's a lot of questions around it. How many people then must we need in a constituency for the member of parliament actually to take that debate to the National Assembly? But again,
before
on
you
the
go
issue,
there,
yes,
just something to explain here. This is a very important question.
yes,
Do you think the constitution is impotent before the president? Like the constitution is powerless? Because according to me, between the president and the constitution, who is above who? Obviously the constitution, isn't it?
yes.
So do you want to tell me that there comes a time when the constitution is purely powerless before him? No.
Okay.
If it is, then it is not a constitution.
Okay.
That means that the actors, like he says, are not doing their work.
Okay.
It forces us now to try to force the actors to act.
Okay.
But there's a provision, it's very clear. In fact, some lawyers even argue and stretch that actually you can just storm and said you must go home. Like you see, if what happened on 23rd of June
Yes.
end up in the State House, it could have been. But you see, as governance experts, we're looking back and said that could throw the country into trouble. And that's why we're urging members of parliament, don't let us go for the last resort.
Okay.
So they should sort out this thing immediately. In fact, the chant for one term begins strongly tomorrow, half term begins strongly tomorrow. And if it picks momentum, members of parliament will have nowhere to stay. You know, some of them are our neighbors. Some of them we go to church together. So they have to start coming to church, isn't it? They have to stop coming for Arambes. They have to lock themselves in parliament or go live in State House of the president if they want not to impeach him.
Okay.
And I'm sure that citizens' power should just agree that is a half term. You know, I've told you 10-0, we don't have to wait. So my brother here is very right with this explanation that there is no direct clause, there is indirect one, but you can also cause a cause to cause the president to go home. And he explained it very well using the analogy of the finance bill.
Okay, let me ask you about the issue now that Deputy Inspector General of the Police, Eliud Lagat, has actually decided to step down and allow for the investigations to take place, and maybe until the investigations are over. What do you make of it now that he was widely mentioned in the case? Isn't the government now making efforts to solve the issues that...
first of all, let's look at the terms.
Yes.
Because when it comes to governance, like in science, terms also mean a lot. From what I understood, he said he had stepped aside. Now, stepping aside means that you have voluntarily asked to be relieved of your official duties or that position temporarily while investigations are going on. That means you have not resigned and you have not stepped down. Because stepping down is, stepping aside is temporarily leaving the office.
Okay.
That is one. Now, second, you come to stepping down. Stepping down is when you leave the position, but you don't leave the service. And then you have resignation, which is leaving the office and leaving the service.
Okay.
Those are the three of them. And then there is interdiction. And interdiction is equivalent to stepping aside, but now it is instituted by your employer.
Okay.
Like what happened with the other officers who were arrested. Okay. They were interdicted and then arrested. So they are not in office because they have been ordered. It is it is administrative action which has been taken. Okay. So now we have seen that Lagat was, we can call intransigent. He didn't want to leave that position. The Constitution is very clear that if your integrity is highly doubted, it is upon you to recuse yourself from the position you are in, and you allow the investigative process to take place. Now, from the beginning, it was very clear that he was a person of interest. But then we saw DCI director go to the Senate and say categorically that the person of interest and
the prime
highest
suspect.
Responsibility, prime suspect, prime suspicion, it was the OCS. Now you ask yourself, when the DCI was saying that, he disregarded all the other information they had presented to us through the IG. And the IG is the boss of the police service. So his position is higher than that of DCI boss. How do you come and you start contradicting your boss? And how do you come and senior officers start conflicting? That means everybody is doing their own stuff. You sat and you agreed this is what we are presenting, and now you have been disapproved, and you are shown to be lying, and you are thinking on your feet. There is nothing worse than thinking on your feet in a crisis of this nature. Now, with that, Lagat has stayed put. That is lack of integrity. He should have recused himself, or he should have been interdicted like everybody else. His stepping aside is not sufficient because there is all this information that is there that he started off the investigation. The complaint. It went on, and he is a very senior person within this whole chain. That means as long as he is not under the control of the administration, that is, the administration is not controlling him, then he is likely to interfere.
Okay.
So in my understanding of governance and taking mitigation action,
Okay.
when a staff member is involved in an offense, this stepping aside is not the right thing that should have happened. He should have been interdicted like everybody else.
Doesn't he have a right, just like any other Kenyans, to be given an opportunity to defend himself, to get an opportunity also to maybe prove himself not guilty?
We are not saying he's guilty. I'm not even imputing that he's guilty. But I'm saying that all the paths, when you go backwards, all the paths are leading to him.
Okay.
So it means interdiction does not mean that you have been punished.
Okay.
It is actually not a punishment. It's a mitigation measure for the offense you have done to guard the people who are innocent and the ones who are aggrieved from your interference.
Okay.
So by interdicting him, he's not being denied his rights.
Okay.
He's just being told, stay away from work and stay away from your colleagues and answer to the investigators.
Okay.
So that should not be taken as unfair.
Yes.
It is actually a normal human resource management procedure that is carried out when somebody has done the wrong thing, and investigations need to be carried out.
Thank you. Let me come to you, Professor, and I want us to converse a bit about the 2025-2026 budget. And my question to you will be, because we had the 2024 budget, you saw what actually happened to the finance bill, and there was a lot of protest from Kenyans. Now you look at the 2025-2026 budget, does it actually reflect what the ordinary Kenyans have been demanding, especially after that protest of the 2024?
Yeah, allow me just to talk about the issue of stepping aside, resign, but very briefly.
Yes.
For me, when I read the actual letter, which actually he has released to the press because written for immediate release, and he said he's stepping aside because of the thing to give room for investigation, then he appoints the person taking over from him. How do you take that? According to me, this simply means that Langat is his own boss. How should you, who has been questioned about your decision in the department, even leave the office and appoint and say, my deputy will take charge until investigations are, which means it is my position, I give it and take it, just like Jesus says, this is my life. I lay down for you, and I take it back again because I am of the Father. You understand? This is not good. Because when you step aside, you cannot appoint the person taking your duties. Your work, even if you leave your deputy to be in charge, you are still in charge. So if this is deputy, and he has handed over to his deputy, and he's the one appointing him, who is the appointing authority in that office? So what are the other person now interacting with his deputy in the process of investigation, dealing? Are you not dealing just with another Lagat in another name? So for me, that is the worst it can get. It means Lagat is untouchable. It means that he is invulnerable. It means that he's unblockable. And I want to say that maybe Lagat actually was the IG de facto. And Kanja is just the Jew. He was just there holding by name. And now, for us to go to the root of the cause, allow me to say this. There's a question Kenyans are not getting. And no one is asking the question. And maybe I don't want the media to formulate the question, because I saw the Nation yesterday reported that the question is who knew what and when about Albert's death, arrest and death. That's not the question. The question was why even that person? The main question why? Because you see, when Lagat has been stated that he was receiving 100 million shillings a month from 12 base commanders in Nairobi, isn't it? This, for me, is what needs to be investigated. Whom was he receiving the money on behalf? Who are enjoying the proceeds of this money? How much was he collecting? If his boss was collecting, was his boss collecting double that money? So if his boss was collecting nothing, yet he was collecting 100 million, isn't it? Then he actually was the boss. And then I saw some people like Esther Passaris coming to defend him by saying when he got the report, he looked green. This is a lie, because we know when I was a young boy, when you break your mother's glass, you also look surprised like your mother, isn't it? But you know, actually you did it. You wanted the guy to say, yeah, I did it. So Esther Passaris wanted us to, and then Mutai Ngunyi, his first tweet about Ojwang was defending Langat by saying, if you hold this man, the true killer will walk scot-free. That was the tweet from Mutai Ngunyi. So the people defending Langat makes me realize that Langat is an institution within the Kenya police. And that is where the problem, in fact, his resignation, resign kama boss mwenyewe. Like, I own this company, let me set aside and allow my son to take control until after investigation, I'll come back. So there's Lagat season 2 coming and boiling down, isn't it? So for me, I'm so disappointed by that. I think the president, if at all he's actually the head of state and head of government, and then the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, he needs to just send Lagat home fully and totally. And then if at all he feel violated, he should actually go to court, isn't it? And either get the damages, because what is about Ojwang, where suspicion leads to death, and death has finality. You know, death is final. There's nothing you can do about it. So according to me, I have not liked at all how they have managed this matter from day one, and they continuously make another mistake. So let me go back to the issue of the budget as you asked.
But I think this one we can talk a bit, because we also need to look at, I hear what Fred is saying.
Yes.
But you know, this is one, a democratic country. Secondly, a constitutional country. And third, a country that is supposed to follow the rule of law.
Yes.
So everybody has a right to the question you asked. So you cannot send Langat home. I mean, Lagat, you cannot send him home. Just like the way you cannot send any of the other guys home. What has to happen is that investigations have to be carried out, and then the ones who are found culpable, they are prosecuted. For instance, this question of who did what. You know, there is something that is repeatedly stated, orders from above, that from a very senior police officer. We need to know who is that police officer who gave those orders. And we also know that orders from above that are not lawful are illegal orders, and they are not supposed to be obeyed. And therefore, if somebody obeyed the unlawful orders, then they have a case to answer, and the issuer of the orders also has a case to answer. So I know we are all hurt, very, very hurt, but we need to remain within the course of the rule of law, so that we do not break the same law that we want to enforce and sustain.
Okay.
So whatever the case, even today, if I had and sorry about that, if I had a knife here and I stabbed you, I will not be killed, I will not be jailed. I will be taken to court. And all these people will be witnesses. And eventually it will be said, yes, Joe is the murderer, or is the person who harmed. And then from there, action will be taken.
Okay.
So we need to be within the law
Okay.
in order for us to execute the law.
Okay.
No, just a question. If you look at penal code,
Okay.
you look at Witness Act, isn't it? You look at the Constitution of Kenya. Already a violation has taken place, and with enough evidence. Let me ask you what, between the policemen who are interdicted and Langat, whom do you have more evidence about violation? So those policemen who are interdicted, they were interdicted, so that's okay. Langat is a big fish, so we have to follow the due process. We are trying to say, as soon as, because I went to Central Police on that very day on Monday, and these policemen had been interdicted. Which investigation has been taken place? Who had gone to court? Who interdicted them? You get my point? So according to me, because IG is part of the decision makers, he was in the press statement done in Central Police, standing side by side to the chairperson of IPOA, isn't it? Side by side to IG, issuing the statement. That was a lie. You get me? Because the statement was a lie. The guy hit his head on the wall, isn't it? That was a lie. They already lied. Now, Chapter 6 of the Constitution is clear, integrity. So lying is not is something fair, isn't it? The guy went, I was a witness, eyewitness. I helped the father of Albert Ojwang in the writing of witness report. He said, the policeman told him, we have come for your son kwa sababu ametusi mdosi wetu. Sivyo? The reading of standard media, which is there, isn't it? On record. In fact, they show a probox, isn't it? Nani alikuwa kwa title? Langat. Isn't it? Nani alikuwa mdosi wao? Ni Langat. Sivyo? What did Kanja said? It is the boss, the boss who complained is who? Langat. You guys, don't make this thing like a rocket science, isn't it? Any idiot can read 1 + 1 is 2. Maybe 50 million times 20,000 might be complicated. According to me, we are following procedure. There are policemen who are interdicted, isn't it?
Yes.
Because of suspicion, isn't it? Yes. Maybe in the police order, that is the way everyone should go through that process and also get interdicted. Then the other thing which is also very interesting here and actually is glaring, we have seen some evidence that there was a case also in, I don't know, it was Eldoret somewhere, where there's another, a priest was killed. Then the guy was there. Within no time, 2 people were found dead almost the same way. You understand me? So we can see a chain of evidence, isn't it? That calls for it. And then, Joe, you've given an example. If you are to knife this guy, you'll be arrested. You won't resign and appoint your successor. You will be in a cell, isn't it? And you'll be produced in court within 24 hours, isn't it? Then the court will the one release you or keep you.
But there we are in agreement.
But here,
he should have been interdicted right from the beginning. And that one,
so
I said that from the beginning.
According to me, even still to allow him to write to us a letter telling us that he has resigned, that is being treated special.
Yeah, sure.
Because the Constitution doesn't know anyone. I'm sorry to use the word of lawyers.
Yes.
The law is an ass, isn't it?
Yes.
It doesn't care who you are.
Okay.
And when it's treated like, if it's treated that way, even the president should just feel the law is the law.
Okay.
And this thing whereby the Constitution treats some people in a certain way, others in a certain way, all Kenyans are equal before God first, and then secondly, before the law.
Okay.
And therefore, any treatment you give to a Kenyan, look, man, brother, Ojwang was having lunch with his wife. And they even didn't allow him to finish his lunch, isn't it?
Yes.
But here, somebody has time even to write us a letter.
Okay.
But that was suspicion of false information, suspicion.
Okay.
Here is death committed, but somebody has all the time. You understand me? I don't think that it is fair to treat Ojwang the way he treated him, with urgency.
Okay.
Even his father had to take a bus to follow him. He was not given a time even to breathe. Why are we giving this man more time? According to me, it is clear, and evidence are so much that Lagat even the state was more patient with him,
Okay.
isn't it? And when you look at even how the IG spoke himself,
Yes.
he simply said, in Mzigo, yeah, Deputy Inspector General.
Okay.
And let me reveal
Yes.
that as far as I'm concerned,
Yes.
this was a crossfire.
Okay.
The fight between the police,
Yes.
the Inspector General, and Deputy Inspector General that leads to this issue.
Yes.
So according to me, the entire police, even the IG, they just need to go home. You understand me?
Okay.
And once they go home, the reforms can take place presided over by these people.
Okay. Oh, quite interesting. I asked another question which you've not yet answered about the 2025 2025-2026 finance bill. We have the other time we had the 2024 finance bill, and you saw what happened with the Gen Z and the government actually. What do you make of the 2025-2026 finance bill?
So first of all, to understand, because there are some things that has not been very clear in the public domain, what's the relationship between a finance bill and the budget? Finance bill is a chapter in a budget, because that's why you pass the budget first, then you pass the finance bill second. Just like Mbadi presented the budget last week on Thursday, and now they have to go and pass the finance bill to ensure they can meet what was projected in the budget. Now, a few history here.
So what is the difference between finance bill and the budget?
The finance bill is a chapter in the budget, because the budget talks about expenditure projections, revenue projections, and then the finance bill is to review the tax law to allow you to collect those projections you're having. So it's one and the same thing.
Okay.
Nevertheless, you don't have to do a finance bill every year.
Okay.
But to understand this, the finance bill, let's go to the history of the finance bill. Do you know what was the first finance bill ever written?
204?
204, written by Kibaki. Some of us are experts contributing to a few chapters in it. And there's a chapter where I contributed very much in what's called the third schedule. So the finance bill is originally was around 157 pages. Now, the current one is 137 pages. Out of the 137 pages, 130 pages are the key. The key content is found in 130 pages. The other 7 is either preliminaries and concluding remarks. So within 130 pages, can you imagine that this current bill is worse than the previous 2024-2025. But they have done what you call PR management and played with the intelligence of Kenyans to make it look good. One thing, they have used what they call deletion. If you go to the finance bill, if you have it, the first alternative page, there are 6 phrases being deleted. We delete this phrase, replace with this one. So one page has 6 deletion. And I've looked at all the 130 pages. There's an average of 6 deleting phrases per page for 130 pages. So that is 780 phrases being deleted. Can you imagine, Kwach, if you had to write your life history and I delete 780 pages, is he still talking about you? So there's a lot of scam in this finance bill. In fact, if there's any finance bill...
In the finance bill 2025?
Yes, it's worse than the previous one. And let me just go. Let me take you where the mischief is.
How is this worse than the previous finance
Let me
bill?
take you where the mischief is.
Yes.
That one at least was telling you what's happening.
Yes.
But this one has mischief.
Okay.
You know what mischief is?
Okay.
What men do by telling their wife, I'll make you the happiest woman on earth, without benchmarking. You don't even know who is the most happy woman on earth. And you think that you can make her better than the woman you don't even know.
Wow. Okay.
So there's mischief. So mischief is found in the third schedule.
Okay.
The third schedule is the schedule which was used by Kibaki to ensure you lower cost of living. Uhuru touched on it also during COVID by revising it. That's where most of the zero-rated tax are. So what's the difference between zero rating and tax exemption? If you understand the difference, then you see where the mischief is. In the third schedule, they're all taxes which were zero rated. For example, taxes that leads to pharmaceutical medicine like Panadol, ARVs, medicine mostly, and mostly finished consumables which people buy in large quantities. That's where the third schedule is. So they were all zero rated, meaning that the government won't impose taxes on a finished product that is zero rating. So if, for example, you are selling a Panadol, there is no tax on the Panadol so that Panadol can be affordable to you, because healthcare is every home has a Panadol. Tell me any home in Kenya that has no Panadol. That's how this government is cynical. They look for what has got the highest penetration in all households. So that is the rating. That tax exemption means that the government still will not levy taxes on finished product, but the difference is that should a producer incur taxes in the process of producing that good, they don't get tax credit. In zero rating, you get tax credit, so that if you incur a tax by importing a produce from a chemical from India or from China to manufacture Panadol, the taxes imposed on that input, you'll get tax credit from the government, so you don't have to pass that tax to the final consumer. But exemption means that the final product don't have taxes, but should you incur cost as a producer, the government does not reimburse you.
Okay.
So what you do is no one does business where they're making losses. They push that cost to the final consumer, and therefore they become more expensive. Now, look, after the bill has been passed, all medicine will go up. So all those Panadols you buy, those action you buy, mara moja, name them. Hata hizi za kupasha misuli, when you are deep heat, all those things will go up because the government is not zero rating them. They are now exempting them from tax, but the input tax will be put into them. So that schedule will make people's life more complicated. So according to me, the cost of living will go up. When you go to your drawer at home, when you pull the drawer of medicine, you'll see that there's Panadol, there's Maramoja. Everybody who has kids, they travel with a bag. That will be taxed. You get me? Now, when you tax that, you take away money that they could use for buying bread, isn't it? They could take money, maybe, for example, paying school fees. And of course, you realize now again, the budget is now saying some people pay exam fees for themselves. So this finance bill is worse. They talk about the issue of digital tax among young people. Where will they make money? And lastly, last but not least, the issue of sniffing on your they are saying that KRA will have access to your private information for the sake of taxation. Then KRA will share this information or DCI with the spy software. Life is unbearable. Can you imagine anything you do, everybody knows?
Let me come to you, Daktari. Daktari, what is the expectation of Kenyans? And what is general expectations of Kenyans? Even as we come up with these finance bills, we talked about last year. So what actually happened? And even this finance bill that we're talking about, Kenyans have expectations. But Professor is saying this finance bill is actually worse than what we had last year. What is the expectations of Kenyans generally in a finance bill like this one?
In most cases, the citizen expects the worst case scenario to be a continuation of the status quo, that you don't increase anything. That is what the consumer expects. Now, for this particular one, one is that business is very hard, very difficult, and it is all because of this misgovernance. Whenever you see people on the streets, you know that you are not producing. It is a necessary evil because people are going to the streets to try to force the government to listen to them. That should never happen. If you made me the president of the Republic of Kenya, one of the things I would ensure is that people are left, not allowed, because they are allowed by the Constitution, but they are left to express themselves. So that you can listen as the government and know how to intervene. It doesn't pay to beat people and throw tear gas. You're incurring more costs because you have to replace the tear gas and people will go to hospital. People have not worked. You're actually increasing the cost of living by violently trying to suppress protests. Now, for this, what Kenyans were expecting is that the government will give them a budget that lowers the cost of living. So now we get from Professor here that the cost of living is going to go high, and his explanation is very clear why it is going to go up. So the expectation of Kenyans was that the government is going to lower the cost of living, the cost of goods, the cost of services, and ensure that Kenyans are able to we have a better business environment. It doesn't appear that it's going to go that way. Now, even when you don't talk about the budget, with the way the government is splashing around public funds, the cost of living is definitely still going to go up. So Kenyans will be disappointed.
Are we likely to see another Gen Z protest soon enough?
That is possible. That is very possible. But right now, Kenyans are justifiably very, very much engaged with the issue of Albert. And it is the one that has come to sort of eclipse or cover the issue of the budget. Now, for me, the issue of Albert is very, very critical to this nation. Because in this issue, we have an opportunity to address the misgovernance. So we are likely to see when we may not see an immediate reaction to the budget because of the prevailing issue. But when people realize what the budget has done, you are likely to see protests now trying to force the government to lower the cost of living. Yeah.
Quite much interesting. Let me come to you, Professor, even as we come to the end of this conversation. Do we expect, of how you've talked about this finance bill compared to the last, do we expect another protest from the Gen Z? And maybe what is another big issue, actually, that could trigger public unrest from where you sit?
Yeah, there are a few things here, and including what my brother Joe has said about the fact that Kenyans are preoccupied with justice for Ojwang. You know, when you hear justice for Ojwang, and then you say reject the finance bill, reject the finance, this is for the living. Justice for Ojwang is someone who has lost a precious life. 31 years old, you are just you are just like starting to enjoy life, understand? By the way, I want to correct that Ojwang was not a blogger. Ojwang was a teacher. No one is a blogger. I mean, we do it. Blogger is not a profession, but I'm saying maybe some people are making a career, but I don't think Ojwang was making career out of it. If Ojwang wanted to become a blogger, he could have gone to the school of blogging. Ojwang was a Kiswahili teacher and religious teacher, CRE, in Voi, in Taita Taveta County. So Ojwang was a teacher. But of course, we also blog. Even me, I'm blogging, but I mean, this just by the way. So let me just go back to your question. So one thing Ojwang has sort of touched Kenyans because everybody sees themselves in Ojwang and also see themselves in Ojwang's father. Me and Joe have slept in Central. So when Joe and I heard that Ojwang died in Central, Joe, I'm sure you felt something very... You must have felt something, and maybe you have to express this for sure.
Sure.
Because we're in Central with you, then you hear Ojwang has died in Central. Then you start imagining you lying there.
You're with Dr. in Central?
Yes, in Central Police. We were arrested with him together and we're in Central. So we saw ourselves entering Central and being booked into Central. Fortunately, we left alive. Ojwang lives dead. Another thing that people are looking at Ojwang's father, and some of them has lost their sons and daughters like Ojwang, And they are so powerless before a very powerful state. So that's why. But if you go to the thing, or we are talking about the budget now, the budget also, even if Ojwang didn't die, Kenyans were not going to take it the way they took it in 2024. Why? One is that some of the things they fought for on the street was sneaked again unconstitutionally and was done anyway. That's why Ruto said Uta do. And there was a title in a headline in Standard that says, I am unstoppable. You can do me nothing. You understand? And Ruto thinks that politics is more powerful than constitution, and therefore people say, maybe it's not worth fighting. And also, secondly, we had come to a point when they say kufa dereva, kufa makanga. Dereva bado yuko na sasa watu wanakufa, sivyo? Now the issue is Kenyans are now moved from one term to half term. And if Ruto did not, if Ojwang didn't die, the half term could have taken more center stage than reject the finance bill. Because even if you reject the finance bill, and Ruto is still the president, you have done zero work. Because Ruto is the finance bill, and finance bill is the Ruto. So if Ruto remains, you still have the impact of the finance bill.
Ruto is the finance bill.
Because as economists, I told you there's a relation between the budget and the finance bill. The budget proposal then was 3.9 trillion, isn't it? It was even revised upwards. Yet we didn't pass the finance bill. But we are trying to pass the finance bill to allow us spend 3.9 trillion. But you know what? The budget went up and up. So that's why Kenyans don't care. Kenyans are moving to whereby the number one problem is not the finance bill. Because finance bill, someone can get to the office and reverse it, isn't it? But what we cannot reverse is this Kasongo. So people are turning to Kasongo and saying, you really have to go home. Now, where I wanted to add something about this finance bill, there are two things here. The first finance bill and the budget gave us a budget deficit of 571 billion shillings as the budget deficit for the first budget, 2024-2025. Can you imagine by the time we were finishing 2024-2025 budget, they had revised the budget deficit to almost 1 trillion, meaning that over 429 billion shillings was still added and was borrowed then to be spent by this guy. That's why the debt went up. So can you imagine a government that gets this wrong in their projections by 471 billion? Can you even trust that budget with these people to know what to do? So you saw the budget supplementary was done 3 times. How do you do budget supplementary by 3 times? These people don't know how to do budgets. Now, to the second point, then I can conclude. Do you know why Kenyans don't bother too much about the budget? When I grew up, Kwach, people used to turn on radios. In Kibra, we used to go and surround ourselves, one radio by 12, 13 people listening to the budget. Do you know why we used to do that? Because Moi knew how to do things. Moi was not reading a budget. Moi was reading a price list. Maziwa, shilingi mbili. So unaandika. Chumvi, hiyo ni ndururu moja. Vitu kama so Moi, people are reading price list. It was not a budget. The advantage about that is that you knew what will happen after the budget has been read, because they were actually reading the price list. And maybe to allow me a detour a little bit, as a young boy, I grew up in a family of 11 kids. And bread used to be around 11.5 slices, thereabout, 11.5. Maybe kuna ile kwanga ile 0.5 imekata inakaa very thin. That was 0.5. So the day Moi reduced the bread size so that he does not increase the prices, he just removed 1 slice. Nilibaki na hiyo half. So my mom told me that, Fred, when we buy bread tomorrow, because I was the youngest boy in the family by then, nusu itakuwa yako. I'm telling you, that's how budget was serious. That you know 1 slice is gone. Now, when Kibaki came, Kibaki stopped reading the prices. Kibaki started reading revenue projection and expenditure projection. So Kibaki, I want you to get this difference between Kibaki and Ruto. Even if Ruto says he's Kibaki's student, that's a lie. Kibaki read the budget. There's what you call budget projection, expenditure projection and revenue projection. What does that mean? It means if we collect the money the way we expect, agriculture will spend this money, tourism will spend this money that way. That's projection. Like you can tell your wife, if I continue earning X amount of money, I'll buy you a house in this time. So that's a projection, isn't it? Uhuru also did what Kibaki did, so he didn't depart from him. Actually, Uhuru is a better, more Kibaki student than Ruto. But Ruto became opposite and reversed everything. Ruto doesn't read projections, he reads allocations. You know, there's a difference between allocation, budget allocation, and projection. What's allocation? Allocation in Swahili means kutenga. Allocating does not mean that if money continues flowing, you'll get it. Allocation means nimekutenga, lakini pengine hautaona. Projection means that so long as Kenya collects 2.7 trillion shillings from Kenya KRA, we shall spend 400 billion in Ministry of Education. And it is not negotiable. We don't have to go back to Kibaki and tell him, now that we have collected, what do we do?
Yes.
So this is a reverse because projects, you see, capitation has been given money by the Ministry of Education. They don't receive the money. There are so many parastatals and ministries that don't receive the money because we are going to allocation. In the Western world, once the budget has been read in a spreadsheet, when money hits the account, it moves to the different areas without any other approval. But Ruto, after the money has come, again, you have to go in and tell Mr. President, sasa nipatia ile will allocate. Then if you are talking to him nicely, you get. If you don't talk to him nicely, you don't get. That's why, Joe, should you or I or any other person become president, we should separate treasury from Ministry of Finance, isn't it, and State House. So that when money hits the treasury, treasury is what holds all the assets, including money. It should be spent as per the budget approved by Parliament. And I end by saying the following. There is a mechanism for doing a budget according to the Constitution of Kenya 2010 because our fathers never allowed us to do guesswork. This is how it happens. Normally, the citizens should go and identify projects of priority for them on the ground. For example, in Siaya, in Homa Bay, in Murang'a, in Taita Taveta, Kilifi, and the rest. Then after that, they present these things to the county assembly and the National Assembly. National Assembly will debate them and prioritize them. Then the executive spends the money on those projects, then Parliament oversight. But here, we start by Treasury, the one beginning to do what they want to do. Then they tell you this is the budget. Then they come to citizen when it is too late for them to know what they want. Like the budget for 2025-2026 began writing in July. Then you're being told in February, kama ishaiva, unataka ugali ama ugali. So unataka ugali na omena ama ugali na omena. So ukisema si ugali na omena unalala njaa, sivyo? So this is what we are trying to tell people, that we should start writing the budget with the citizen from the beginning, whereby the first step is policy formulation. Then the second time is budget formulation. Now you project the figures. Then the third one is budget implementation. The fourth one we talk about now, budget accounting. The fifth one we talk about budget auditing. And the last one we talk about now, budget oversight. And that cycle, we need the citizen to be there from day one to the last day. If not, then there'll be no way we shall have Mwananchi budget, because you hear the bullshit they say every day, sorry for my word, the losers and the winners of the budget. Have we heard such a thing? That's a lie. Why? Because they tell you Ministry of Education is losing to Ministry of Agriculture. Who owns this Ministry? One government, isn't it? But the winners of the losers should look from government versus businesses and household. When the government tax the household too much, they starve the household, they starve the businesses. Therefore, the losers are the businesses and the household. When the government tax less, it means they release money to the businesses and the household. Therefore, the household and the businesses are the winners, while the government is the loser. But this one, whereby out of the 4.3 trillion budget, 3.11 trillion is going into government expenditure. Recurrent expenditure means the government is the winner, the citizens are the loser, and business is the loser. That's the business environment is suffering, and the citizens will suffer in the end.
Thank you so much. Sir, your parting shot as we come to the end of this conversation.
Thank you. My parting shot is to Mr. President, William Ruto. Yesterday, you said that you will not hand over power to people who have no direction. And I want to say here, on national TV, that the prerogative of handing over power does not belong to the president. It belongs to the people through the Constitution. So whoever is elected and declared the winner of the elections, the sitting president has to hand over power. And that is something that is not negotiable, not in our Constitution. So I would like to tell Kenyans, such statements from the head of state, they are unacceptable. And it tells us that the president then is planning to retain power by force. So we must reject that. Thank you.
Wow.
Let me just add on that, as
Yes.
my parting shot. I'm sure I've had mine, but this is quite interesting.
Yes.
That this began in Homa Bay when Raila said Ruto's 2032 rule up 2032 is not negotiable. Raila said it.
Yes.
Then Ruto now confirmed it. So that's up to them. But let me emphasize what my brother said. According to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, as soon as you cast the first ballot in an election, the president enters temporary incumbency. He cannot make any appointment constitutionally. He cannot fire. He can't hire. And it's only after being sworn in constitutionally, which requires he has to be elected, and then he has to be upheld by the Supreme Court, then sworn in, that he can continue. Hakuna kitu bila break, kunanga break. The break is after the first ballot has been cast. You are not president fully. You are temporarily incumbent. That's why when Uhuru Kenyatta was debating the fact that he can constitute a commission to investigate the last election, it was not going to work because you can't make appointments. So, Mr. President, let me remind you, read the Constitution of 2010. Those 1 million advisors you have, let them advise you better.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Mugasha and Professor Fred Ugola. It's always nice having you on this conversation, the Power Table, where we get to converse on issues that affect you, the Mwananchi. And of course, it's a great conversation. Find us, of course, at the Power Table. That's a conversation that is worth having. My name is Eugene Kwach, and of course, you can find me on different social media platforms at Eugene Kwach or Kwach Official. Thank you, and good night.